Hi friends, as you might have guessed, in this video we're going to talk about residence cards. Right away, here's a bait for comments. Write in the comments how long you waited or are still waiting for your cherished card. We're releasing an analysis about migration paralysis in Poland, why foreigners are left without residence permits for years, how Article 100D blocked the law, and why Germany is taking the best specialists. Protests in Warsaw, a logical analysis of the reasons and the chaos. And we'll also talk about the prospect. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Don't hold back. It only takes 2 seconds to like and support aerodynamics, to support the working class. Thank you for this, for your help. Now, let's be honest. Yes, write in the comments. Why isn't the bald guy at the front? Why doesn't he have a residence card? Why isn't the bald guy at the seat? Yes, by the way, I want to remind you, just for 15 seconds, that the best money transfer service is TransferGo. The link is in the description. By sending money to your family and loved ones, supporting them, you can also earn a little money yourself, like 10 euros. In short, all the links and all the details are in the link in the description. Yes, and let's probably start with what at first glance seems like a minor street commotion in the center of Warsaw. Yesterday, on August 24th, 2026, about 200 foreigners, mostly Ukrainians and Belarusians, gathered in the square in front of the Mazovian Voivodeship administration. And they didn't come out with political demands like let's overthrow the government or let's crush global capital, but with simple signs that had numbers written on them: 400, 2500, 546. 2 years, as you can imagine, these are waiting times. That's how long people have been waiting for something as basic as legalization, getting a temporary residence permit, or as it's called in Poland, a karta pobytu. The average waiting time in Mazovia is already almost 400 days by law. The official processing time is 60 days. Yes, if any Poles are watching, you can write in the comments right now. If you don't like how our offices work here, just get out of Poland. That's it. But people are told directly, so what if it's 60 days? The law doesn't apply to you for now because Article 100D is in effect. The so-called law on assistance to citizens of Ukraine, which actually froze procedural deadlines until March 4, 2027, and then will extend it even further. And by the way, let me say that alongside this, there's also a story unfolding about a Japanese finance and accounting specialist named Yoshikazu. This man married a Polish woman, has been legally married for 15 years, returned with his family from Tokyo to Warsaw in the spring of 2024 and waited 399 days for his application to be reviewed. And after 399 days, he was told, sorry, your document package was sent by your wife, not by you personally. The case is closed. Please apply again. He reapplied on March 31, 2026, and after 150 days, the case still hadn't even been assigned a registration number. In the end, a company from Germany hires the man. German bureaucracy processes his documents in 2 weeks, and the highly qualified specialist leaves to work in Germany while his wife and child stay in Warsaw. It might seem like, what's the big deal, right? Just ordinary bureaucratic red tape. It happens to everyone. But let's take a deeper look with a step-by-step search for the root causes and causal relationships. How is all of this actually set up? And what are the prospects? Well, I want to get started right away, friends. The first thing is the collapse of the myth about European efficiency, right? Because, well, the myth of the perfect European state apparatus has taken a bit of a hit, if not to say that this myth has been completely shattered. Because for decades, people have been saying and telling us that Europe, the European Union, is where everything is great, and that Ukraine is some kind of Asia, a wild place, a wild field, chaos, corruption. But here in Europe, we have an efficient, well-oiled, finely tuned administrative machine. What do we see in practice? In practice, the Polish administrative system has simply seized up and collapsed. And it didn't jam up just yesterday or suddenly, because in 2023, the average processing time for residence card cases in Warsaw was 153 days. By today's standards, that seems almost instant, but it already exceeded the established 60-day limit by 2.5 times. In 2024, it was 302 days. In 2025, 340. And now it's August, on the 26th. An incredible 394 days. Why did this happen? But the answer is obvious, right? Let's just look at the dynamics of the Polish labor market. For the past 10 years, the Polish economy has been actively consuming cheap labor from Eastern European countries. All the much-praised economic growth of Poland, which the authorities love to report about, has been largely paid for by the labor of migrants. Builders, drivers, couriers, as well as IT specialists, computer experts, and financiers. Polish entrepreneurs received enormous benefits by attracting millions of people who could be paid less and expected to do more. However, the state as a governing apparatus turned out to be completely unprepared to provide services, to provide the necessary infrastructure for this very process that capital itself had set in motion. Finding 3 million workers, okay, they found them and brought them in. Or they came on their own, like in the case of the Ukrainians, but hiring an additional 2,000 or 3,000 inspectors for the departments dealing with foreigners, that's a joke, of course, the Department for Foreigners Affairs. In short, it's already at the voivodeship office level, and to provide them with decent wages and a modern digital processing system, well, that's where they held back. Why should we spend money on infrastructure, on staff, on salaries? If the business owners are getting their profits right here and now, it's no big deal, they can wait. And now we move on to Article 100. The most intriguing part of this whole story is the administrative and legal trick that the Polish legislative authorities pulled off, so that the voivodeship officials wouldn't be flooded with lawsuits in administrative courts for inaction, right? And in Polish law, this is called bezczynność organu or przewlekłe przestępowanie. The Polish Sejm adopted a regulation that is brilliant in its cynicism, Article 100D on assistance to citizens of Ukraine. And just wonderful logic. Instead of expanding the staff, organizing the archives, and speeding up the work, the legislator simply canceled the procedural deadlines with a stroke of the pen. So the law literally says, yes, the provincial governor is obliged to make a decision within 60 days, but if he doesn't do it, you crooked-toothed peasants have no right to complain about it. Because we officially allowed him to do nothing about this issue and just wait until March 4, 2027. Not everyone will go to court to fight, right? And even if they do, good luck trying to win. Do you have enough money? Because we do. For us, it's free. Oh, and by the way, this rule applies to all foreigners, regardless of citizenship, right? This is pure legal arbitrariness. The social contract that the representatives of the Golos Glos Migranta initiative talked about here in this square, well, in my opinion, their demands are quite reasonable. We pay taxes, we follow the laws, just give us the opportunity to live. And all of this has been broken by the state itself unilaterally. And in the Polish press, in particular publications Ino Rzeczpospolita and Gazeta Wyborcza during the summer of 2026, there is active discussion about the severe crisis in the relationship between the labor market and demographics. On one hand, Polish businesses are shouting at the top of their lungs, give us workers. Factories are at a standstill. Transport companies are losing contracts. By the way, just yesterday or today, we were talking in the morning about logistics. Construction projects are being frozen. On the other hand, the political mainstream is in a panic, afraid of accusations from the right-wing forces. Damn, what are you doing? You are encouraging uncontrolled migration. What is this? The reaction of the state system to these contradictory impulses turned out to be classic. Well, some kind of sabotage, some kind of paralysis. In general, who benefits from a worker without rights, you might ask. Let's ask ourselves this simple question. Well, is anyone even interested in this, right? That a foreigner is stuck without documents for 400, 500 days, 3 years. Nobody cares how long he sits. Who benefits from a person staying in a legal gray area for years? A person who doesn't have a recent stamp or a residence permit in their passport is in a vulnerable position. They have problems opening and maintaining bank accounts. And by the way, yes, I personally, as a Ukrainian, might not face this, but Belarusians definitely do. He can't legally change employers legally, because otherwise he'd have to start the whole process all over again. He can't leave Poland, right? He can't visit sick relatives, can't send his child on a school trip to neighboring Germany, the Czech Republic, London, or anywhere else. Such a worker becomes perfectly tied to a specific employer and sometimes to semi-legal schemes. An ideal target for exploitation. Just try to stand up for your rights in that situation. He'll demand the compliance with safety regulations, a union, something like that, or a salary adjustment. He'll immediately get a hint that in any conflict, his documents could just accidentally get lost in the process. Or they'll issue a denial and then even deport you. So, and let's get back to the case of this Japanese specialist, Yoshikadzu. I remember this name now, Yoshikadzu. It's really a marker of the class and administrative blindness of this system. Because, well, those, Ukrainian workers, who cares about them? No one. But the man is white, Japanese, a top-class expert in finance and accounting. He's not just some laborer, right? With all due respect to laborers. And warehouse workers and so on. This is a person who generates a lot of added value and is capable of bringing huge tax revenues to the treasury from his high salary. But my God, officials, the Polish bureaucratic machine absolutely doesn't care. For them, it's just another folder on the shelf, which they close with relief after 400 days of waiting under the pretext that your wife brought the envelopes. You have to come in person, man. Well, you've really lost your mind, you bastard. So here's the result. Now, Germany has entered the game. German capital is much more pragmatic. They appreciated the specialist. In 2 weeks, they prepared his documents in Düsseldorf, and now they take the taxes for themselves, while the Polish state is left with nothing. With the broken family lives of its own citizens and a growing shortage of qualified personnel. Well, friends, let's move on to the conclusions. Damn, spoiler, nothing good. Let's just sum it up. And, well, my prediction? I really hope I'm very wrong. Yeah. The prediction, because it's not encouraging, regulatory freeze until 2027. Since Article 100D is officially in effect until March, officials have absolutely no incentive to change their working methods. And why should they? The backlog of unresolved cases will grow not by the day, but by the hour. If today the average wait time is 394 days, then in 6 months, at the beginning of 2027, it will naturally increase to 500 days. And by the way, that's about how it is in the Silesian voivodeship. Next comes the loss of qualified personnel. Adverse selection is taking place. All sorts of great specialists, IT people, engineers, doctors, financiers, entrepreneurs, they just won't spend years stuck without rights. Here's an example of this, Yoshikadze. I can't say it will become widespread, but surely someone will take it up. The ones who will leave are exactly those who bring in high income, know languages, and are in demand in the West. The most vulnerable groups will stay in Poland, those who simply have nowhere else to go. Oh Lord, I just work here, I do some turning, just a little turning, it's nothing serious, I'll just stay here. Or simply people, it happens by the way, who don't want to go through being a migrant a second time, to move again, to learn a new language. Not everyone can even do it once, let alone twice. And then, friends, there are hundreds of thousands of people who are stuck in a legal vacuum. They're being pushed by the system into, I can't say the shadow economy, but into a kind of gray area. Because sometimes there are jobs without contracts, paid under the table, and no social protection. All this inevitably leads to the growth of various corruption schemes around speeding up document processing and increasing social tension between migrants and the local population. Because even in my comments, with my modest number of views, people write, "Get out of Poland if you don't like it here." Let's also talk about the authorities' deafness to peaceful protests. 200 people who came out with signs. I think the officials at the voivodeship office won't even consider ignoring them. They don't even think about it. We can deliver because within the current political framework, migrants are people who don't have the right to vote. They don't vote in elections. And that means, from the perspective of the ruling political elites, their problems have zero priority. And we are witnessing a classic systemic crisis where the Polish state administrative machine has proven completely unable to handle the results of its own economic development. And they are trying to mask the problem with administrative pages, putting laws on hold, but this only makes the situation worse. So friends, unfortunately, my forecast is that nothing good awaits this system in the coming years. You can share your opinion in the comments. Thank you very much for your attention. Leave a like and write a comment. Let me remind you about TransferGo, follow the link, register, and so on. That's all for now. See you next time.